Avatar 3, one of the most anticipated films of 2025 for many people. Is it any good? Is it better than the first two films? Will it make $5 billion at the box office? Did you only go see Avatar Fire and Ash because you wanted to see the new Avengers Doomsday trailer? Let's talk about it. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Avatar Fire and Ash, like I said, for some, it is their most anticipated film of 2025, and that's definitely the case for me. It is being described as action epic, adventure epic, epic, fantasy epic, science fiction epic, action, adventure, fantasy, science fiction, epic, 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 epic. Now, this is being directed and written by Mr. James Cameron and also produced. This is what the gentleman looks like right here, and he is arguably one of the best filmmakers of all time. If we scroll down and look at his famous filmography, of course, he has Avatar 4 and 5 ramping up right now if Fire and Ash is successful, and I think it will be. He did Avatar, The Way of Water. He did Avatar. He also did Titanic in 1997, True Lies in 1994, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. This man's filmography is explosive. Now, when it comes to my expectations for Avatar Fire and Ash, they were super duper high through the roof. Like I said for the third time in this video, it's one of my most anticipated films of 2025 of this year. I love the first Avatar film that came out in 2009. The first time I did see that was in a 70mm IMAX screen, even though I don't even know if it was filmed with IMAX cameras at the time. And I also did see Avatar The Way of Water in 70mm IMAX as well, or at least a theater that can hold that. There's a reason why I brought that up. But I have been a fan of Avatar since the beginning. I love both films. They're some of my favorite movies of all time. Visually, just amazing, breaking all types of records as well. I also was happy with the amount of money that they made at the box office. And I was saying to myself, will Avatar 3, Avatar Fire and Ash, reach $3 billion worldwide? The only way that is possible is if everybody is running out of the theaters universally together saying, oh my gosh, I loved Avatar 3, I love Avatar Fire and Ash, I think it is better than the first film and the second film. That was the only way I thought it could make $3 billion worldwide. And of course, we're going to be talking about that. It can't be as good, or of course it can't be worse than the first two, but even if it's as good as the first two movies, that's not enough. It needs to be better. And like I said, we're going to talk about it. So before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what Avatar Fire and Ash is all about. Jake and Neytiri's family grapples with grief after Netiyam's death, encountering a new aggressive Na'vi tribe, the Ash people, who are led by the fiery Varang. As the conflict on Pandora escalates and a new moral focus emerges. All right, guys, so if you haven't heard, if you're not living under a rock, this movie is long. It is coming in at 3 hours and 17 minutes, rated PG-13. I actually forgot to say that in my intro. I was like, something seems off right here. Great thing about this film is, guys, it does not seem long. I have seen this movie twice at the time of this recording. The first time I saw it, unfortunately, I had to get up and go use the restroom twice, not once, but twice. And also towards the end of the movie, I did doze off for like 5 minutes. So I did miss a good chunk here and there. But the second time I saw it, I did not use the restroom at all on myself, and I was able to pay attention. I was not dozing off. I'm not saying that the movie was bad the first time. I was just tired. I say all that to say the movie is 3 hours and 15 minutes, but it does not seem long at all. Like the second time when the credits hit, I was like, wow, it seems like we've only been here for like 2.5 hours. It doesn't seem like it's been 3 hours and 15 minutes, and I am impressed with that. So if you're worried about a long runtime, of course, please make sure you go to the restroom just to be safe, but this is not like long and draining and daunting. It starts, it ends very, very quickly. Or at least that's the way it seemed. Also, go ahead and see this movie in 3D if you have the chance. I know that may be annoying and you don't want to put that on your face, especially if you have glasses like mine, big ones, but it was still able to work. I was able to put the enhanced 3D glasses on top of mine, and it wasn't an issue. I wasn't uncomfortable. I wasn't shifting in my seat, trying to move things around throughout the duration of the film. The 3D enhancement was great, especially when it comes to leaves falling down, fire, ash, embers, and also rain. I will admit, I didn't notice the 3D in any other aspects as far as bullets flying out of the screen or arrows or a great sense of death or just any object coming out at the screen of you. I did not feel that. But when it comes to rain, ash, fire, embers, and all of that nature, the 3D enhancements was 2 thumbs up. Also, see this in the best theater format that you can, whether it's IMAX, D-Box, or Dolby 3D. I did see this in Dolby. I'm not really a Dolby guy. I'm more of an IMAX person. If I had to choose, I'm always going to choose IMAX. But the times I did see this film, both times it was in Dolby 3D. So to be honest with you, I did feel like I missed out on the aspect ratio, especially with me being used to that with the first 2 films. But the sound, when it comes to Dolby, oh my gosh, it was thunderous. It was explosive. It did pop. You did feel the rumble in that theater. And one scene in the very first act of the movie is when the fire people first attacked and Jake was letting off of his gun, his AR, his assault rifle, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, you heard the bullets, you heard the bass, you heard the explosions. So if you have a chance to see it in IMAX or Dolby, I prefer IMAX, but if that's not available for you, Dolby is your next best thing. At least you're gonna get some good ass sound from this film. Another thing that was interesting to me in this film is there is no time jump. When we went from the first Avatar film up until 2022, The Way of Water, that was at least 10 years jumping forward into the future. And initially that did bother me. I was saying to myself, man, this kind of sucks the way they're starting off Way of Water. I do want to see what happens in the future, but at the same time, I kind of want to see the aftermath of what happened in the first film. And maybe it's not 10 years. I don't know exactly. There may be some time dilation and gravity, whatever. I'll leave that up to Neil deGrasse Tyson or any other expert when it comes to astrophysics and gravity and space and anybody that can relate to Einstein. But in this film, there is no time jump. I would say that this film, Fire and Ash, maybe takes place a couple of weeks after The Way of Water, at most a couple of months, but I'm going to lean with the former and say a couple of weeks because we're still getting the aftermath and how all of the characters react to the death of Jake and Neytiri's first son in Avatar: The Way of Water. And I like where the characters are. They don't know where to go. They're discombobulated. They're frustrated. They're sad. They are mourning, especially when it comes to Neytiri. When we left Neytiri in The Way of Water, she was a ferocious warrior, a mom that ain't taking no names, not playing no games, standing 10 toes down. You cannot mess with her family, with her babies, or she will chop your head off and think nothing of it. Rightfully so. The performance from Zoe Saldaña in The Way of Water was great. So in the very beginning of this film, to see her a complete 80, the polar opposite of that, where she's mourning the death of her son and has all this tribal makeup on and just sad and sulking around like there is no hope in the world, you feel bad for her. You feel sorry for her. You can understand why she's mourning, but at the same time, you're saying to yourself, you still have more children, you still have a family, you still have a husband that you need to tend to, and you're also trying to survive because we have these evil white supremacists that are coming through trying to take over your land. So you feel sorry for her, but you want her to kind of pick it up just a little bit and move on with her life just for the sake of the rest of her family. But seeing the performance in the character, seeing this journey that she's going on, just trying to cope with this tragedy that she had in The Way of Water, really does step up her character and makes you relate to her that much more. You're rooting for her, and those are just great protagonists that you want in your film. Now, there are a few aspects and or environments to Pandora that you get to know in this film, and I do appreciate. Of course, the first one was just the introduction to the world, and part 2 was The Way of Water, the same thing, but a tribe that lives underwater. Now we're introduced to the Sky Traders. These are groups of people that fly above everybody else in their tents, their floats, whatever the hell, their blimps, whatever you want to call it. They don't take sides, okay? They're very neutral and they just trade like, hey, we got these supplies, we got these resources. What can you do to make us feel better? We can give you this for that. We can give you that for this. What you want to do, how you want to trade. I did appreciate that. And also one of the clan's leaders and his garb, his robe, his costume, his wardrobe. It was red, it was bright, it stood out. When you looked at him, you can be like, okay, this man is in charge. And of course, we do get an introduction of the fire people as well, the fire and ash people, how they live up in the mountains. They don't want to live with the forest people. They don't want to live with the water people. They want to live over here in the mountains, in the rocks, and the caves, and just play with fire and ash all day. And I'll come back to them in a second, but I do appreciate the inclusion of them in this film because it seems like every movie we're getting to see a new side of Pandora that we never got to see before in the past. So that's just another plus. The action in this film is top notch, and we all know that James Cameron does a great job of choreographing all of his action in his sets. One of the things I like about James Cameron is when it does come to the action, I feel like we always get a full display of all powers and abilities from every character involved. I never feel like someone is not giving 100% or full effort to seize the day, whether they are the protagonist or the antagonist. However the strategy is written out, people are going to swing, people are going to shoot, people are going to stab, and people are going to die, whether they come in the beginning, middle, or end of the fight. Everybody's going to put 100% of their effort. And I feel like I got the whole scope of battle in this film, whether that was in the trenches, in the forest, in the daytime or in the nighttime, in water, below or above water, on ground or in air, with multiple different types of environments as well. Again, going from daytime and the nighttime. There was not one time I said to myself, when it comes to the action, like, man, I wish I would have saw this. I wish I would have saw that. I was 100% fulfilled and satisfied with the action, with the choreography, and the adventure aspect of this film. So when you tie that with characters that you care about, great visuals, because this is just a 3D epic, and great choreography, I mean, my goodness gracious, you're going to be entertained. And I was entertained, and I think you will be entertained too. I also felt like there were decent stakes in the film. I felt that if the bad guys, the Na'vi, the protagonists, didn't succeed, that damn, their world is over with. Now, it wasn't as impactful as the first film, but it was still somewhat impactful in this. And I did appreciate that as well, the level of stakes that James Cameron did create with the Na'vi versus the humans. I also did like the great sense of family. While these Na'vi characters, individuals, these tribes, this group of people have their way of life, whether that's in the forest, in the water, and they seem like they're more evolved from a moral and survival standpoint than humans, there is still sometimes dissension in the ranks or beef amongst the Na'vi and their tribes. And I like that. It just makes them more relatable and realistic. Everything is not always sunshine and rainbows. I like their culture. I like the way they handle things for the most part. It's not perfect, but they do have a system of laws that they try to abide by. Yes, there may need to be an amendment here and there, but us humans on Earth, we haven't mastered that either. And so that's just another great way that you can relate to these characters, because their society is somewhat based on ours or similar to it, but at the same time, like I said, somewhat evolved or enhanced. Not perfect, but I still like it. I also like the representation of human beings having too much arrogance or ignorance, thinking that their way is the right way and they're above all. That is a true reflection on humanity, especially with certain groups of people alive on Earth right now that hold all the power. This is a textbook lesson to where just some people are evil, no matter what. There's no bargaining with them. There's no pleading with them. They just can't help it. Unfortunately, that is the truth. That is the reality of life today. And that's the same thing in these Avatar movies. It's like, don't you understand the reason why you're here? You're here because you destroyed your planet, okay? It's not this group of people, this group of people, or this group of people, because they hold no power. You're destroying your planet, so you have to travel 27 trillion light years away to somewhere else to try to colonize, and you're gonna do the same thing again. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, I mean, my goodness gracious, I don't have any kids right now, but I just feel like I can introduce this movie to my future son or daughter and be like, look, this is what these people do. They destroy, they destroy, they destroy, and they're destroying this again. This is a good lesson to learn. Let's try our best not to engage with these type of people, because there's no such thing as peace and harmony. It's just nothing but death, chaos, and destruction, and they're bad. So I like that visual representation too, because it's just realistic to reality. But guys, those are the things that I did like about the film. Now let me transition to some things that just did not work out for me, and makes this possibly my least favorite Avatar film out of the now trilogy. First of all, I am showing up to this theater because I want to see more of Pandora. I want to see more of the Na'vi and their environment and what makes them tick and what makes them talk. I felt that this film focused too much on the character of Spider. Now, while I do like the character of Spider, he is my least interesting character. He is a human being, and I don't want to see the human beings. Like I said, I want to see the Na'vi and all of their new environments, all of their new tribes. But the film just focuses on his character far too much as he's trying to adapt to Pandora and survive. Now, what the film does do right is introducing a new element to this franchise that we've never seen before. And this is in the trailer. I'm not spoiling anything for you that the studio did not want you to know before you see the film. And that is an important plot point in the first two movies. The human beings are coming to Pandora to try to colonize it, but they have a large handicap, a huge detour in the road. They can't breathe the air. So for you to introduce a plot point, an element into Avatar 3, Fire and Ash, to where they may have overcome that obstacle, that is a huge plot point that you need to explore. What the film fails on is, while it's still focused on this plot point with Spider too much, they still didn't do it enough. They introduced this story element in the first act, but then, in my opinion, abandoned it in the third act, repeating something that they did in part 2, The Way of Water, and that's just very disjointed to me and makes the film lose focus. If the film would have explored Spider more and the technology and him being able to adapt to Pandora, that would have been much more thrilling, much more entertaining for me, but we just got a repeat. Before I talk about the repeat, I want to talk about something else. Also, we did get a new element of the Fire and Ash people, and it's not enough, okay? The first film that came out in 2009, the whole movie was an introduction to something that we've never seen before. And then part 2, The Way of Water, it was a whole new introduction to a completely new environment underwater. Like, the water people and the forest people were completely different. You had to train the forest people to be able to live in the water, and it just didn't happen in 5 or 10, 20 minutes. It took months and months of training and learning a completely new way of life that took up at least half of part 2, The Way of Water. That is not the case here. When we get to know the fire people, it's just brief interactions here and there. We don't get to know what they like or what inspires them or why they have so much beef with the rest of the Na'vi, the fire and the forest people. And I feel like that's a completely missed opportunity. I mean, it's just too brief. And again, the first two films, we were introduced to a whole new world, but here it seems like we're introduced just to a new closet, you know, or a new balcony. No, I want to see the whole complex. And I feel like we was robbed there. Also, another sin in this film is the character of Courage, played by Stephen Lang, a great villain. I loved him, but there was no point of him being in the movie. I liked his character and wanted to see him pop up, but he does not have any real reason to be there other than personal beef that he has with Jake. His mission is ridiculous and he doesn't even care about it. And we're gonna talk about what the human's mission was in just a second, but the only reason he's there is because I'm mad at Jake because he killed me the first two movies, or at least the first one, and I just want some revenge. And that's just not a good enough motivation for me. If he wanted to team up with the humans for another mission or for this or for that, then that would have been one thing, but he had his own little side quest that was just a distraction. Now, again, it's just a great representation of pride and ignorance that is true, but that's just not anything I want to see. I want to see more. If he's going to be back for part 3, let there be a reason and not just a complete copycat of what came before. But the biggest thing that bothers me about this film, and it is so unfortunate, is this is just too familiar from part 1 and part 2, Avatar 2009 and Avatar The Way of Water 2022. Other than what I just mentioned, there is nothing new. Everything seems familiar. Everything seems predictable. You're going to be saying to yourself when you're watching this film, especially in the third act, like, oh, I remember this from the first movie. Oh, I remember this from the second movie. Okay, they did this. This is what's going to happen, in the exact same thing happens for the most part. Yes, the choreography and the action may have changed just a little bit and the locations may differ. And instead of them fighting at night, they may be fighting in daytime, but it's pretty much the same thing. Also, the plot from the humans is they're trying to do the same thing they did in Way of Water, is extract this piece of cellular tissue or just some substance from these whales so they can send it back and extend life on Earth, which is great. That is very, very important, and it pays for y'all's trip here. but it's the same thing, and I don't want to see that. I was sitting there watching, like, wait a minute, this is the same plot from part two. Y'all couldn't think of anything more? And what really bothers me and grinds my gears is when you do a little research, it says, according to James Cameron, the Avatar sequels were such a massive undertaking that he divided the 3 scripts between the writing team of Rick Jaffa, Amanda Silva, Joe Friedman, and Shane Salerno. Cameron delves further, explaining the story process. I think we met for 7 months and we whiteboarded out every scene in every film together. And I didn't assign each writer which film they were going to work on until the last day. I knew if I assigned them their scripts ahead of time, they tuned out every time we were talking about the other movie. It seemed like they tuned out from this one right here because it's just too familiar from part two. As far as Quaritch is concerned, as far as what the goals of the humans are, and also just the last act of the movie, it being just a repeat of what came before in parts 1 and part 2. Oh, the Navi are losing and the little girl calls on AWA to come help. Same thing happens, and it's the 3rd time. It's just the 2nd time it felt a bit fresh because you added the water element. But with this right here, I'm just like, yeah, this is entertaining. I'm enjoying this. I don't know who is going to live or die, but I feel like I know what's going to happen. And that's just very uninteresting to me. What sucks is if Avatar Fire and Ash would have came out before The Way of Water, I wouldn't have felt that way. It's still a great movie. I would have said, man, this is a great sequel to the first Avatar film. And then Way of Water would have came out in 2000 and, now, maybe I would feel that way, the way I feel about Fire and Ash. But the movie is not bad. It's a great movie. They just really don't introduce anything new, but everything new that they introduce is too brief. And that's just really, really unfortunate. And so again, the movie is not bad. It's just more of a repeat of what you saw in the first 2 films. And for that reason, I can't rate it as high as the previous 2 films. And so I definitely don't think this movie will make $3 billion, maybe not even 2.5. It probably will be the least successful out of the franchise with the word of mouth, but that's not a bad thing. I'm still going to say it'll at least make up around $2 billion worldwide, but we're just going to have to see. As far as my rating is concerned, I will tell you that at the very end of this video, but for now, guys, that is just my opinion, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give me the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hey, I'm almost at 60,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button, help me out, reach that milestone. I would really appreciate it, and it helps if you leave a comment or if you share the video. But before I give my rating, let me know, are you excited about this film? Are you only going to go see it because you want to see the Avengers Doomsday trailer? And where do you rank the Avatar movies? What is your favorite? 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 3, 1. Where you at? So when it comes to my rating for Avatar Fire and Ash, if I were to rate it from 1 to 10, I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10. Yes, a solid 8 out of 10. I think I gave the first movie like a 10 or a 9.5, and that may have been what I gave The Way of Water too. But guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget, I'm B. Avery. That's just my opinion. Peace. And I'll see you next time.